You're not crazy. Concerts are changing. Everywhere you look, there seems to be a new show begging you to spend $1,000 to go to it. It's like, damn man, I don't make enough money to be able to go to all these shows. I mean, at one point, concert tickets were like $5. Where did we lose the plot? It seems like every single day new shows are going more and more viral, making concert tickets more and more expensive. But why? Go to this show for cool lights. Go to this show for cool dances. Go to this show to cheat on your wife. Okay, maybe don't do that last one. I feel like it doesn't end well. But why does it feel like concerts have changed so much in recent years? Not just in ticket price, but in innovation of how the concerts go. It seems like pop shows follow a certain rubric of how they're structured. Why is that the case? I go to a lot of concerts. In fact, it's my job. I go to concerts for a living. That's why I'm making this video. And I have learned so much about concerts over the last few years. You see, growing up, I watched videos of like Freddie Mercury at Live Aid, and I always dreamed of being able to go to those shows. But it doesn't seem like those kind of shows really exist anymore. But why is that the case? Like, why have concerts changed so much? And what changes have been made to justify these prices? You see, I started having this question a few years ago when I attended my first ever Coachella. One of my standout memories from that weekend I was there was when I saw Blackpink. Now, Blackpink are some of the best live entertainers that are currently touring with some of the highest demand concerts in all of music. And after seeing their Coachella set, I very much understand why. You see, before they even came out on stage, I experienced my first ever drone show. Which, by the way, drone show, absolutely insane. I felt like I was living in 2040 when I was watching this. It was mind-boggling. I couldn't imagine showing a Victorian child a Blackpink drone show. And while most concerts don't feature drone shows, they feature something quite similar, which is the light-up bracelets that you see at most shows now. I'm not entirely sure where this trend of these light-up bracelets started, but I'm pretty sure it started with K-pop. My first ever show with these bracelets was the Eras Tour. It was unbelievable. My reaction to seeing these bracelets for the first time speaks for itself. But these light-up bracelets have become almost a staple at concerts. You almost expect to be given them when you walk into a stadium show. These light-up bracelets have not only become a souvenir for concertgoers to remember their show by, but also a way to elevate the experience and elevate the night. It really adds this extra element of production. But what happens when you grab the dial of production and you just turn it all the way up? What happens when you just go absolutely insane with the production of a concert tour? Well, I feel like that question was answered when Stray Kids went on tour. These shows look insane. Every 10 minutes in this concert, it seems like a new sleep paralysis demon comes out of the stage to like haunt you while you're at the show. But I feel like that's what happens when the production goes crazy. But there's also been shows where people grab these really special moments and they just kind of give it to us too often, where it dilutes it. Like Benson Boon doing front flips and back flips on stage. Benson Boon doing a bunch of flips on stage has become quite a meme lately. Like, I can't say that when I go to an AC/DC concert, I expect them to do a backflip on stage. But if I went to a Benson Boon concert and he performed a song and didn't do a backflip or a front flip, I want a refund, man. Do a flip, Benson. And I feel like that's what's been the issue with concerts lately, is people find a working formula and they just repeat it too often to where it just dilutes how cool and special it was to begin with. But what I can say is I've never been to a Benson Boon concert, but I have seen him do like 50 flips in my life. Why? You know, why? Why do I have to see this as much as I am seeing it? And I feel like as much as we have these crazy bits of production and crazy flips from Benson Boon, the almost anti of that is like a normal theater show nowadays. Lately, I've actually been going to a lot more theater shows than I have been stadium and arena tours, and I've actually found that I've really enjoyed the theater shows. I think for most people going to concerts is about seeing their favorite artist and being able to see a song that, they've built a very close personal experience with over the span of, let's say, a year, and being able to share that experience of seeing that song live with fellow fans who also understand how special it is to see the song. There doesn't always have to be crazy production and sleep paralysis demons coming out of the screens. Like, I saw Lucy Dacus in concert not too long ago, and it was such a stripped down show. It was beautiful. Like, imagine if Lucy was performing and all of a sudden, hell opened up behind her and it was just terrifying. Be like, what is going on? Like, I don't want that. That isn't always necessary to make for a good show. And I think that's what's quite special about theater shows, is there's little room for innovation. There's not enough space to provide the screens or animatronics necessary to have a Stray Kids-like show in a theater. But the only issue is what happens when an artist gets so big that they can't be confined to a theater. And the Eras Tour, I think, actually changed concerts in a lot of ways, not just in ticket prices and how concerts are structured, but in how concerts are made to feel special. And I think that really comes down to surprise songs. You see, performing surprise songs at a concert allows you to have a very personal experience at your show. Whenever I talk to someone in public who went to the Eras Tour, I always ask them what their surprise songs were. And an artist that very much took note of this and applied it to their own show was Sabrina Carpenter. For instance, there was a part of the show where Sabrina did her own version of surprise songs.
Guys, you want to play a game with us?
She spun a wheel, and she ended up doing a cover of Shania Twain. Cool, right? It was a way for me to be like, hey, I've seen Sabrina Carpenter perform a song that no one else saw performed unless they were in that room that night with me. And then recently, Gracie Abrams started her tour, and she did the exact same thing. She developed surprise songs in her own tour. And it's a fun way for concerts to be very unique. I was there when this song was performed. But it just seems like everyone is doing surprise songs now. And I don't know when surprise songs started. I don't know if Taylor Swift was the first one to do it, but it's the first one that I was made aware of. But another thing that these same concerts have done is crowd interaction. But lately, it's been a lot more in your face and a lot more obvious of a crowd interaction. At Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, we had the 22 hat, a section of the show where Taylor took off the hat on her head and placed it on a fan that was waiting at the edge of the stage for her. Very cute tradition, very cute trend. It went viral, one of the many things that went viral on the Eras Tour. Who was gonna get the 22 hat every single night? And once again, other pop stars started to take notice of this, and they started incorporating it into their own shows, like Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter had a section of her show which was getting arrested, where she would all of a sudden have this warning banner on the screen and she would arrest a fan. She would end up giving them pink handcuffs, and it was really fun. My friend Nick got arrested at the show I was at.
Oh my clothes are falling off for you, Nick! Nick! Oh my...
I actually got to pose with the pink handcuffs at a bar after when we met up for drinks. Very cool vibe, right? Now, how can we elevate it? We could actually arrest someone at the shows. Could you imagine she brought a fugitive to the show unknowingly? Oh, you've won tickets to a Sabrina Carpenter concert. I feel like that would be pretty cool. It's like one of those How to Catch a Pred shows, but live. But this element of audience interaction has really become a staple at shows. It's almost become a must. But even at Charli XCX concert, you had the Apple person. I don't really know how to explain it. My friend Sammy was the Apple person of the night. Now, it started out that, influencers and just kind of normal people were doing the Apple dance, and then it very quickly switched to, big celebrities. Chappell Roan was the Apple girl. And it seems to be the blueprint of pop concerts now, Which is, crowd interaction and surprise songs. And that's where the evolution of concerts gets a little tricky, is you know, it hasn't all been bad. There's been a lot of great innovation when it comes to concerts. You know, the pop concerts having their surprise songs, having their crowd interactions. I would much rather have better crowd interactions, you know, more unique shows and more unique experiences than to just have the same cookie cutter shows. Like recently I went to Halsey and she grabbed all of what I've talked about and put it on crack. Now I was invited to the Halsey show day of, okay? I didn't pay for tickets, I was invited by her label, and I was like, yeah, I like some Halsey songs, I'll go. This show was nuts, okay? And it wasn't just nuts because it was a fantastic show. She changes the set list for every show. Like, it's not just surprise songs, the whole show changes.
For those of you who don't know, I am playing a completely unique set list every single night of this tour, which means the show that you see tonight, nobody else will get.
That is so impressive and such a good example of how all of what I've talked about gets done in a good way. And I think that's where I want to head to next, is good shows I've been to, because I feel like while pop concerts and concerts in general have changed, they've both changed for good and they've changed for bad. A few years ago, my girlfriend said she wanted to go to the Ed Sheeran concert with me because she thinks that I would get a lot out of it. And I was like, all right, you know, I like Ed Sheeran. He makes great music. Don't know much about his concerts, but I'll go. Now, these concert tickets were like $250 each, so it wasn't a cheap show, but we went nonetheless, and I was blown away by what the reality of this concert was like. You know, I talk about innovation in concerts and earning the price tag that we pay for these shows, you know? Ticket prices now are like $250, which means that I'm expecting a $250 show out of it. You know, I want my money's worth, and Ed Sheeran definitely gave me my money's worth. He was unique in the sense that he live looped every single song that he performed. Every single loop that he made was different than the loop he made the night before, you know? There was the little tiny details that made our show unique. Ed Sheeran has all of the budget to be able to make a Stray Kids show, to be able to give us those light up bracelets. I mean, I don't think he can do a Benson Boon backflip, but I feel like Ed Sheeran has the bank account where he could hire Benson Boon to come out and do a backflip for him at the shows. But Ed Sheeran's shows were so good because it was really music, you know? Nowadays, there's so much conversation around electronic music and people playing real instruments. Ed Sheeran played every instrument, you know? He was the piano, he was the drums, he was the guitar. And recently, Lady Gaga started touring, and all the videos that are coming out of her tour look unbelievable. You know, the attention to detail, she had huge bits of production, kind of like Stray Kids, but I feel like it was done in such a tasteful way that complemented each song that she was performing. She developed characters throughout her show. And recently my girlfriend said, hey, why don't we watch the 1975 headline Glastonbury? They built up such an unreal vibe at their shows just based on making good music and having a dedicated fan base, but also showcasing their passion for music. You know, you could say a lot of things about Matty Healy, okay? You could say a lot about Matty. But one thing you can't say is that he doesn't love music and he doesn't love his job and what he does. And it's very evident when you go to a 1975 show that that's the case. Now, I saw the 1975 in concert and the show was alright. I feel like Matty wasn't in the best headspace and it got a bit weird at times. Like, there were moments where he was just humping the stage. But then watching this 1975 Glastonbury set, my whole perspective on the 1975 as a live band really changed. And all of a sudden, I could rationalize possibly spending like $200 to go see them in concert. You know, once you see a performance like that, all of a sudden the price tag that some of these concerts come with starts to make a bit more sense. But these are all examples of shows that have done it well. I recently just got insanely sunburnt trying to get tickets at box office for Coldplay. But Coldplay do such a good job at making the show so unique. You know, they have bicycles that you can pedal during the show to be able to actually power the concert and help alleviate the stress of production that it would take on the environment, you know? Electricity costs are down because some poor bastard is on a bike for the entire show sweating his ass off so we can get, you know, light up bracelets. But also, there's a moment of the show where Chris Martin asks everyone to put away their phones and just live in the moment. You know, it's a show that's very much specialized on being there and being live and enjoying the actual show. You know, it's a lot easier to pay a hefty price tag if your memory of a show was that it was fantastic, that it was life-changing. But some shows I feel like have tried to be innovative, have tried to make their money worth it, and it just hasn't worked out. You know, recently Katy Perry started touring. I like Katy. I met Katy, beat her in a game of rock, paper, scissors. She put me up on her story. I feel like I have a close connection with Katy Perry, so I'm always gonna be Team Katy. But her show looks a little odd, okay? Lightsaber battles were happening in the middle of her concert. And I feel like Katy's gone viral for all the wrong reasons. She's tried to innovate, you know? She's tried to do what other pop stars have done, but I feel like it's just not been as good. You know, The Weeknd at his shows, I feel like it's the same. It's a bit cringy. He's got that little tongue thing he does. Why? You know, why do we need this at the concert? I don't want this, you know? I don't want this. I just want a good show. I don't need to see how your tongue can be, you know what I mean? And it begs the question, like, how much further can we go with concerts? Like, when do we reach the point where we've seen everything and it just becomes about the music? You know, I think certain price tags are put on shows because you're seeing something new. You might be seeing a drone show, you might be seeing front flips, you might be seeing a crazy bit of production like at the Stray Kids concert. But at what point do we hit the farthest level of innovation where we've just seen everything and we're like, all right, now it's just about the music. You know, recently Oasis got back together, and their show went stupidly viral. Obviously because it's Oasis. But their show was just them performing their big songs. It was just a normal concert, you know? There wasn't anything crazy about an Oasis gig. It's just the fact that it's Oasis, you know? And I'm not saying that people should, you know, almost kill their brother on stage, break up as a band, and then get back together a decade later and have this crazy headline show. But I think it proved that there's a demand for just good music and seeing your favorite artist live. You know, my friend Lucas is a huge Oasis fan. He's been begging to go to the Oasis show that's happening here. And that's not because he wants to see light up bracelets, or he wants to see a demon coming out of the stage, or he wants to see Liam Gallagher do a backflip on stage, and I think music's healing in that sense. I think people are starting to get a good understanding of what they want from a show. You know, some people, when they attend a K-pop concert, want crazy production, and that's okay, you know? That's alright. You pay for that show when you go. Some people want really great energy like they'd get at an Oasis gig, and you're gonna get that. And some people want to live in the moment like they do at a Coldplay concert. And I think when I look back at Freddie Mercury's Live Aid performance, you have a bunch of people packed in to a really confined space, watching Freddie Mercury deliver this amazing performance. And I think it's very easy to almost get caught up in nostalgia and be like, that show is so much better than anything we have nowadays, which is true. Concerts may have cost less, but I feel like what you got out of them was always the same thing. It was always just about the music, which is completely fine. But nowadays, you just have a variety. You have choice. And I think music's starting to heal a little bit. I think in the pop culture world, things have gone really too far. I almost think there's no saving it. Like, I don't see a world where Gracie Abrams tours and it doesn't cost hundreds of dollars for a concert ticket. But I do think that concerts have changed, but I don't necessarily think that they've entirely changed for the worse. I think we're getting some really amazing shows, and even the shows that don't really hit that mark, they're trying. And I don't know, I'm happy about it, and I'm optimistic about the future of concerts. But let me know what you all think in the comments down below. I'd actually be fascinated to hear what your favorite concert is that you've ever been to, and why. You know, do you like the big production shows? Are you just there for the music? Why do you go to concerts? What's your favorite show, and why? I want essays in the comments. I'm gonna read every single one. But I love you all so much. Thank you for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace.